I, I dyed these George Cleverly yesterday. They've been under extensive restoration if you've watched the previous videos. Now, as I mentioned yesterday, the dye, when it dries, if you're not used to seeing it, it looks a little disappointing, actually extremely disappointing. This is perfectly normal, and there's nothing wrong here. But if you've not seen, such skins be dyed before, it you might have sort of expect it to be shinier. But as I said to you yesterday, this was going to be extremely dull, very, very matte. This is perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong here. It's sort of dry and crunchy to touch, and it's still got a slight sort of new book type of feel about it. Bear in mind, this skin's been extensively resurfaced, and it did leave like a new book type of feel to it. You can't fix that with the dye, but the colour's reasonable. In fact, it's very good. It looks a little patchy and a bit uneven, but that was fully expected. I mentioned that yesterday. And I've also dyed the edges here. And I did mention that I suspected that there was I knew there was a scratch in the skin. And let's just try and get it in the angle of the light. There it is. Just here. We've got a scratch in the skin. I knew that was there. It wasn't a crack due to dryness. Something's obviously scratched that skin. Now, I did try to sort of take that out, but it's scratched. It's not terribly deep, but it's the surface skin, when it gets very degraded like these have become, it becomes thick, swollen. It almost becomes detached from the softer skin below. And you can sand it off, and when it's dry, the dry crunchy stuff, it sands away. But when the sanding cuts through to the softer skin below, it almost stops cutting. It's a little bit like trying to sand chewing gum. It's got a sort of a slight give on the surface, and without going too far, I've been unable to remove. There it is. Here we can definitely see it here. I've been able to remove that scratch, and there's another little chip in the toe here. Now, they will show up in the finished polish result, and I did mention that yesterday, and it was very, very difficult to see it on the skin when it was pale, but now it's dark. We can definitely see it, but I'm not worried. This is a 50-odd-year-old shoe. I don't want them to look new. What I'm going to be doing now is moisturising, and let me just take this jacket off. I don't want to get it on myself. I don't want to get it on my jacket. And here we go. I'll also put on a pair of gloves because the moisturiser is extremely messy. And I'm working upstairs in the kitchen area above the shop. I don't normally work here. I try to do the filming in the window of the shop or outside the front of the shop, but it's absolutely bucking it down with rain, and it's a bit of a messy job, this. I need plenty of space. So all I'm going to use is a black shoe cream. And this will take a few days. Now, what will happen, these shoes are very, very dry. The skins are extremely dry. They've not been moisturised probably ever, to be truthful with you. They've been polished and polished and polished over the years, and the polish had built up and built up, and it had sort of layer upon layer, and it had cracked. But it had never been removed so that the skin could be moisturised and then reapply the polish. And the polish had cracked horribly, and the skin had started to crack. So we've got rid of all that, and you'd have to see the old video to see what happened here. And there's an awful lot of work's been involved. So now I'm going to be applying the cream, the moisturiser, and this will really suck in. And it will take a bit of time, and because the skin's so dehydrated, you can't make the mistake of thinking, well, I'll apply that thick like butter and just let it suck in. It won't. It will suck in certain properties. The skin's that dehydrated, it will. Let's just move this camera slightly. There we go. That's it. The skin's that dehydrated, it will suck erratically, and it will leave certain properties behind on the surface. So let's just start the rubbing process. And this cloth's a bit stained. It's old. That's cream or whatever. It's nothing to worry about at this stage. You wouldn't try and polish with a cloth like this, but it's fine. It's fine for applying the leather cream. Now, as I apply this cream, I need to sort of rub it in. I can't just apply it thick and leave it. It will absorb unevenly and erratically. The skin's so thirsty, it just sucks furiously, but it sucks the easily absorbed components first, the properties within the cream. And it will leave behind the more difficult to absorb properties. It will leave those behind on the surface. So it's important to keep working, and I can physically feel as underneath my fingertip, I can feel the skin softening. It's becoming less crunchy and less scratchy. But this will take time, many, I would say a week, something of that nature, of reapplying, and I have to keep rubbing and force it to absorb. And if you've got sharp eyes, you'll be able to see that the holes are completely blocked with cream. I need to take the brush and just stab away. Here we go. And force the cream into the holes and force it to sort of accept and be drawn. Otherwise, the holes will become blocked with sort of claggy cream. Now, it still doesn't appear to be shiny, but it will. What will happen? This cream, it will plump the surface of the skin, well, the whole skin slightly shrunken, and it becomes grainy. But this will sort of plump the surface, and I'll be able to push it, rub it quite hard, and I'll be able to. This surface that's a bit grainy, it feels a bit sandy. With friction, I'll be able to rub it smooth, and that's actually. Bring it close to the camera. That feels reasonably smooth now. And if we look around here, that's all gritty surface, very, very gritty, very grainy. You couldn't polish that. It's like trying to polish sand. So I'll apply the cream all over. That's really sort of absorbed very, very well at that point. But it needs more and more and more. And I have to do this every day, I would say, for about a week. And really sort of rub it in. I'm pressing ever so hard here, trying to get the friction on, a little bit of friction and tension on the surface of my finger and the skin to actually physically rub it smooth. If I sort of polish it a touch with there we go. You can see that's got a reasonably sort of smooth finish now. And if I take it back to here, that looks almost like suede. So you get the idea. Over time, I'll be able to. That's still quite dry, and it'll absorb more and more. And each time it absorbs, it just plumps the surface slightly. Then you can really, really rub. I am pressing on. If I sound a little bit breathless, I'm pressing on really, really hard. Several kilos of pressure there, as much as my finger can bear. I'm really, really pressing on. Oh, excuse me, huffing. That's quite hard work. It's really pushing us physically. I'm holding it as tight as I can with this hand, really pressing, just trying to get as much friction as possible into the skin. So I'll do that all over. I'm not used to working upstairs here with the camera at this angle. It's rather in the way, but it's the best place for me to be working for this particular job. So I'll just have to tolerate the camera being in the way. But, there we go. It's just, honestly, I'm really, really, really rubbing hard. I can put the shoe down. Let's get it in the camera where it can be seen. Really sort of force some weight, some real weight onto the skin. Just force this skin to become smooth. It's been sanded, and it's been done with differing grades, but even so, it's still left it rather. Now that's getting quite hot under the finger, which is good. The hotter I can, ouch, it's very hot in fact. I can't, I have to stop. That feels like it's starting to burn me, it's that hot. But I'm really pressing on, just trying to burnish the skin. Excuse me, huffing and puffing, this is very physical. Now, let's pull that back. We can see it's starting to get a shine, and there's that scratch, look, that I mentioned that we couldn't see yesterday. And there is another one here, but that's clearly going to show up in the polished shoe, but I'm not too worried. They are 50 odd years old, and compared with how they were truly shocking. I'm going to put that down. As you can see, it's quite physical, but it'll take a good half an hour to go over the whole shoe and really sort of rub it furiously. And then after a few hours when it's dried, I'll sort of come in with the brush and just buff a reasonable sort of shine. It's not bad. It's starting to get there. A reasonable shine, and then I'll go back through the process, more cream and more sort of friction. And the more friction, you can't do it completely dry, it'll ruin the skin. You need some degree of moisturiser on the surface, and press on very, very, very hard. I'm struggling with the angles of the camera, I keep going the wrong way. I don't normally have the camera mounted here, so I'm kind of working in reverse. Man, I'm looking in a little mirror so I can see what's on the on the camera, so I go this way and I'm supposed to go that way. I'm working in reverse, back a bit of a hash of it, but never mind. You get the idea. I'm going the wrong way again. So yeah, whew, I am out of breath because it's extremely physical. But yeah, we're getting a smoothish, and it'll become very smooth. You know, the more I sort of rub this, the more I plump the skin and rub it. Obviously, this has not even been touched yet. Let's bring it up so you can see how grainy it looks, like suede or nubuck. And we're starting to get a shine. Of course, when these get polished, that chip in the toe and that scar there, that will show through, but they will be very, very shiny apart from these little nicks. But if I'd have tried to take that nick out, it's obviously too deep. It was, you know, I could have tried harder, but I didn't want to destroy the shoes. If you go too deep, you end up with a flat spot in the skin anyway, which you get like a flat spot in the shine, which looks worse than a chip. But bear in mind, they're 50 odd years old and they were truly horrendous. I'm not too concerned leaving tiny little chips and marks. But anyway, I'm just trying to get my breath back now. It's really quite physical. I'm not going to do any more. Partly I'm getting out of breath and I can't talk properly, and it's just tedious to watch. But this process will go on for about a week. Applying the cream, forcing it into the holes, not allowing it to build up, and then using plenty of friction to force it to smooth the surface out. Let it dry, buff it, and go back for more cream, and go through the process again and again over the next week or so. So before these get any polish, they'll be buffed and polished so much as a dry buffing, as a dry cream. They will actually look very shiny and very polished. But they actually won't have any polish on at all. And then we'll put the polish on finally, and that's when we'll get the real mirror gloss. But we get in there. I'm going to stop here because I am getting out of breath. It's so physical, and it's not so much the move, it's the pressing of several kilos of pressure. I'm pressing as hard as I can. It's making me out of breath. Sounds a bit silly on camera, me huffing and puffing, but yeah, I'm thrilled with how these are starting to turn out. And if you've watched the previous videos, you'd have seen how truly hideous and dreadful they were. But we'll get there. We'll definitely get there. But I'm not going to keep, filming this process because it's a repetitive process. But I just wanted to give you a sense of how physical this is to bring that skin back from a suede nubuck sort of appearance to having a proper calf skin type of shine or smooth reflection. It's still a bit lumpy, but still a bit rough. But we'll be able to, with friction and buffing, I'll be able to get that quite smooth. In fact, very smooth. I expect it to come quite glassy through here and quite glossy, almost like a glass mirror finish here and here. It'll be beautiful. Okay, I need to take the glove off so I can turn the camera off.